Hey everybody, welcome to God Time for this year's Christmas workshop. It's been a strange year, right? But one of the things that has not changed this year is we're still getting ready for Christmas. Christmas is still going to happen. It's going to look different this year, but the main reason for Christmas is the same as it always has been. And I don't know if you know this, but when Jesus was born into this world in a town called Bethlehem, long, long ago in a country called Israel, the world was also going through some hard time then. And that's why, one of the reasons why God chose to come to us in the form of a baby at that time, so that we could know for sure that no matter what is going on around us, God is with us. And not only that, God wanted to know what it's like to be a human being in the middle of everything that goes on in our life. And when things are going well, that's good, because we know that God knows what it's like to laugh and have fun and play with our friends. And we also know that God knows what it's like when we're struggling, like we are now, social distancing and not being able to be near our friends and things like that. So I wanted to do a God time about the fact that Jesus came as a baby, and I wanted to show you my manger scene. This is the manger scene that I set up in my house with Mike, my husband, every year. We got this toward the beginning of our marriage, and it's always the most special part of decorating our house for Christmas. We don't even have one of those little pretend barns that you put over it. We just put it on a table and maybe put some candles around it. And I wonder if you have a manger scene at home. Maybe you've put your manger scene out already. If you have, you can put this on pause and you can go get the members of your manger scene and we can review the members of the manger scene together. Don't worry, though, if you don't have a manger scene, because I have a surprise for you, and I'm going to show you how you can make a manger scene out of things you already have in your house. But first, let's go over this one. So I'm sure you know who this is. She's very famous at Christmas time. Can you see what she looks like? I know it's hard to see because I intentionally chose this one because I love the fact that it's made out of black material, but it's hard to show up on the camera. This is Mary. You can see that she's kneeling and she's worshiping the baby Jesus. And so we always put her right here, right next to the baby Jesus. And you can see this is Joseph. You can see how he's kind of a man and he's wearing those old-fashioned Bible robes that we sometimes think people from that era dressed in. And we always put him kind of right behind Mary because he's supporting her and taking care of the baby. And then this is a very basic manger scene, so there's not a lot of fancy to it. Do you know who these guys are? I bet you do. They're the three wise men. And so we always put them a little further from the baby Jesus. They're being respectful. They're not trying to get too close to the baby, but they want to worship him. And I bet you know what this is. Let's see. That's one of the sheep from the barn, right? So that's kind of our little sign that this was in a manger, or basically a barn. And of course, this is the baby Jesus. Now I know a lot of people don't put the baby Jesus out until Christmas Eve. And I have a good friend, her name is Beth, and they have fun with that with her grandchildren. And they start out at the beginning of Advent with the baby Jesus on the furthest side of the house, and then every day they move the baby Jesus just a tiny bit closer to the manger scene until Christmas Eve. Mike and I don't do that. We just go ahead and put him right in the manger scene, and either way is okay. It depends on which would be more fun and interesting and meaningful to you. Now, I want to show you something that I like to do sometimes, and maybe this year I'm going to do it because we all need a little fun in our lives this year. This is one of my favorite Christmas ornaments of all time. Can you see who's worshiping the baby Jesus? It's Santa Claus. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Santa Claus. I love getting gifts, and who doesn't, right? But what I love about this is Santa Claus is really saying that Jesus is the best gift, and he's worshiping the baby Jesus to show that as great as Santa Claus is, baby Jesus is even better. So sometimes I know it looks a little silly, but I just go ahead and put the baby Jesus using this ornament, and I put Santa Claus there. Now, you know, Santa Claus wasn't really around when baby Jesus was actually born. He came much later. But that's my little playful way of making sure that we all worship the baby Jesus. So I'm going to put both here for now, and you can decide which one you would do. Now, I want to show you something. Most of you know a lady named Christina Turkington. She helped me by finding some toys in the thrift shop. Because I said, Christina, what if not everybody has a manger scene? What are we going to do? And she said, I know. Let's get some toys from the thrift shop and you can make a manger scene together. So that's what we're going to do. Let's do it together. There's all kinds of things in here. There's some of the toys that are really obvious. You can see this is an angel. It's actually an ornament, so it's got that string on there. And I really like her. She's pretty. And so I'm going to straighten out her ribbons a little bit. And the thing about this is you can see that my manger scene doesn't have an angel. So we're just going to add this angel. Now we can have an angel. And you know what? I'm just going to have to lay her down. I'm going to have to set her up at home and hang her up high. But what's really interesting is, for example, this would have been in Israel, and they have camels. And my manger scene doesn't have any camels. So we can go ahead and put the camel here too. Because who knows, maybe camels came to worship the baby Jesus. Well, this is a funny one. We definitely know there were no dinosaurs, because dinosaurs were extinct by the time Jesus was born. But you know what? If you've got dinosaurs at home and you want them to worship the baby Jesus, then you put them in front of your manger scene. That's okay. And let's see. Now we got to see, who do you think this guy would be? Do you think maybe he could be the drummer boy? He doesn't really have a drum, but he kind of looks like his face. He could be the drummer boy. So we're going to let him, remember that song about the drummer boy? And let's see. Now what happens if, oh, here's another angel. So we're going to put this angel up here. And what happens if you're at home and you don't have a manger scene and you need to make a baby Jesus? Well, I don't know what this guy is, but it's kind of small. So let's just pretend that I don't really have a manger scene and I need to make a baby Jesus. We can lay him down right there and he can pretend to be the baby Jesus. Okay, do you think they had dogs in the manger scene? I hope so, because you know I love dogs. So we're going to put him there. And I love this one. This is one of my favorites. This is an action figure. And my question to you is, do you think he should be one of the kings, or do you think he should be Joseph? I kind of think he should be one of the kings, because the kings were really, really powerful. They were like super rulers in their day, and they had lots of money and power and strength. So, but if you want him to be Joseph because you want the dad to be really strong, you could make your action figure be Joseph. So let's take away one of the kings, and let's add this action figure. So I hope you kind of get the idea that you don't have to have a real manger scene at home. You can make manger scenes. And even if you do have a real manger scene, you know, why not make lots of manger scenes? If you have stuffed animals, let's say, and you don't have these kinds of action figures, you can make a manger scene out of your stuffed animals. Now, there's one final thing I want to tell you about before the end of this God time. And that is about the three wise men. Did you know that we have several reasons why we give gifts? First of all, the three wise men were originally from another country. They were not from Israel. Jesus was from Israel, and Messiah, who Jesus was promised to Israel, to God's people in Israel. But one of the best things about this manger scene is that it wasn't just for people from one country. It was from people everywhere, and we show that by having wise men from a whole different country come to worship Jesus. And so that shows that anybody who wants to worship the baby Jesus is welcome. And What they did was they brought gifts to the baby Jesus to worship because they were rich and they could afford to do that. So one of them brought gold, and Jesus' family used that gold to survive when they went to Egypt. And one of them brought frankincense, and frankincense was, I'm not sure if frankincense or myrrh was medicine. I think frankincense, I'm not sure exactly what that was for, and myrrh, I'm not really sure what that was for. But one of them was for medicine, and one of them is also useful. So these are not just, gifts that don't mean anything. They were actually very useful for Jesus' family. And then many, many, many years later, like hundreds of years later, there was a famous man named Saint Nicholas, who is not the same thing really as Santa Claus, but he was a famous saint, and he knew this story, and he said, you know what? Jesus said, if we love each other, that it's like loving him. So I'm going to give gifts to the children around me. And he did that. And so we learned from the 3 wise men to bring gifts to worship the baby Jesus. And we learned in history that from Jesus that loving each other and giving gifts to each other is like loving God and Jesus. And St. Nicholas kind of made it famous that we give gifts on Christmas Eve to each other. So St. Nicholas was not really the same as Santa Claus, but Santa Claus kind of learned from St. Nicholas. So that's the story of why we give gifts on Christmas. So think about who you give gifts to and the gifts that you ask for and how much they mean to you. And know that if you give a gift to someone and you say, you know what, I'm sharing God's love with that person, but Jesus said, if you show love to each other in my name, then it's like you're showing love to me. So just think about that when you buy gifts for people and you give gifts to people. And if they're a person of faith, and if they worship God, you could even tell them that if you want to, but you don't have to, because people know when you're showing them love. All right, may God bless you all. I know this is a strange year, but may you have a very Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.